Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. Let me take off this comment screen. Starting off with the wide share. I wanted you guys to see what I surround myself with. Yes, it's my final form is over here, but I've got my lights. So seeing it's a bit busy in here. I like my stuff. My Take Human Action Award, but I wanted to give you a bit of a wide shot to see what we had going on here. Let me see if we could back it off a little more because there's other things I wanted to show you. No, that's about all it will do. I wanted to show you like the setup up here, but let's fix this now to be a little bit, yeah. And that's even kind of strange. Yeah, I guess that's good. As you can tell, maybe scoot a little bit. I don't know. When I put the comment screen up, it's going to crowd me, I think. As you can probably tell, I'm freshly pinked. Didn't do the roots. I do the roots like every other time because it's really, really tough on your hair. But I'm pretty glowing right now, pretty glowy, and I need to get a haircut, man. It's getting so long. But I'm glad to be back with you all for history. We were supposed to do that yesterday. I was just insanely busy. If you follow, and you could see the blinking lights a little bit, it's making me very distracted. Oh, look, a bird. If you've been following my ex-Twitter, I've had a paid parliamentary gig, and I needed to finish that work up. Suffered a computer crash. So, yeah, it's been busy. I've got like 4 sets of minutes to do now. But speaking of all of that, I'm going to ask you, if you're new or you just haven't before, please subscribe to the channel. We're we're building up a following. So I think we're at like, crap, how many do I have now? I'm such a terrible YouTuber. I don't pay attention to this stuff nearly enough. I do this because I love it. Let's see what we're at for 5,719. So let's get to 6,000, shall we? So hit subscribe. I would truly appreciate it. Also, as I mentioned, you can follow me. And I think I want to change this name right now, because I figured out I can do this on the fly. I call them X-Twitter now. You can follow me on X-Twitter. Karen Ann Harlos with the unusual spelling. That's on the screen. And last but not least, I truly would appreciate your support at patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. It helps me keep this show going. Also, super chats, super thanks matter. I truly appreciate it if you do any of those things. And down in the show notes, there's some Amazon. Whoa, didn't mean to do that. There's some Amazon affiliate links and, you know, all sorts of good stuff. But let's get on with the show, shall we? So since we're starting out a new issue, September, October, we like to flip through it, don't we? Just to get an idea of what we're dealing with. So, whoa, I didn't censor this and do all that before the show. And now you're getting the side view with the furnace door open. Didn't really want that. Let's see if I can switch that. I don't know if I can. This program changed around a bit. Let's see if it'll let me switch cameras. There we go. That's much better. How many people do I need to get one of those YouTube plaques? That's 100,000, I think. We're a long ways off for my little niche channel. I'm super thrilled with as far as I've gotten, to be honest with you. Okay, so here we go. First cover. I need to get my little stream deck going here. So you could tell we picked McBride in 76. LP under attack by conservatives. Okay, that will be fun. Raising high the banner of liberty. State parties are really getting going. National. I love that picture of that convention. The way they used to do the delegate signs. By the way, I like that a lot better. I don't know how well you can see that on the screen, but the delegate signs for the state delegations are on poles. I hate those triangular, like table set down ones we do now, because they continually fall over. There needs to be sandbags or something inside of them so they don't keep falling over and hitting people on the head. I actually like them up on poles. I also think it makes a better visual. And if I have any say in that for next national convention, it's not going to be the way it's been. Those table toppers were a great idea. You could use them year after year, but it's like, well, communism's not even good on paper, but it's like allegedly communism. It's good on paper. It does not work in practice. Why? Oh, didn't mean to do that. Rothbard, look at him. Timing is right. This is a long, for concerted LP efforts. I doubt we're going to get through this. We're going to cherry pick through this issue. Obviously, it's not going to be all this show because this is really long. Convention rights, 76 platform. Tool chest for LP activists. Wow, this is a 12-pager. Profiling LP national ticket. There's a press liberty. And news notes for libertarians. This is a long one. Okay, well, let's go back to the beginning, and we're at least going to do, and I'm going to get the comments up because we do have comments now. Thank you guys for being here so late with me. I think I want to make that a little larger. There we go. So, yeah, it's like I need to move my camera over so I'm more over to the side. So it's not quite so imbalanced. We're going to have to make that tiny bit smaller. Okay, so we're going to the front page here. Put on my peepers. And let's get started. It's McBride in 76. I'll have a glass of wine to that. Okay, New York City. Roger McBride and David Berglund. Roger L. McBride won the LP's presidential nomination with a convincing first ballot. Wow, it was on the first ballot victory over two rivals held in this city at the Statler Hilton Hotel during the last week of August. McBride, a Charlottesville, Virginia lawyer and television producer, accepted the nomination. Speaking of learned a new word today. Letho? Is it letho? Yeah. Lethologica is when you can't remember a word. Now, isn't that funny? Because that's a tongue twister of a word. Won't it be funny when you can't remember the word for not remembering the word? But it's lethologica. You won't remember it. And that's just ironic, just like the fact that the word lisp has an S in it. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? Okay, so he accepted the nomination before nearly 500 cheering libertarians and bowed. And this campaign, which begins this very minute, that minute, not the minute before, at that very minute, there will be no compromise of principle. David P. Bergland, an attorney from Huntington Beach, California, gained the vice presidential nod on the third ballot. Ooh, there was a bit of a contest there. The convention received extensive national media coverage, television news on CBS and NBC, frequent network radio reports, lengthy articles from the UPI and AP Wire services, and a syndicated column by political commentator James Kilpatrick. We got to circle that. The highly successful 5-day convention. Holy crap. They weren't kidding. A 5-day convention. Ooh, was an emotionally charged event from start to finish. Delegates and alternates from 35 states in the District of Columbia gathered in Default City. What's Default City? I thought they were in New York. Do you think this was like a form error? Default City. Is Default City a city? Like, that just reminds me of insert bylaws here. Default City. Let's see. We're looking this up. Oh, were they just trying to joke? Yes, okay. So there was a great default crisis of 1975. And New York City almost went bankrupt. Wow. So we're learning some other history here. This is why they called it Default City here. I wonder how many of you knew that and like are yelling at the screen at me like going derp. But check this out. I'd like to share the screen. You know how we like to wander with history. So look, let's remove this comment screen here for a second. Lessons from the Great Default, default crisis of 1975, 38 years ago. So this was in 2013. So we're now 48 years ago. New York City went almost bankrupt. Check it out. So they called it Default City. Well, we can, I would encourage you to go check this out. This is from The Nation, but I'm sure there, are a bunch of articles on that. That's a piece of history I did not know. Very curious if any of you happen to know that. Okay, so that explained Default City. I thought it was like, I know these are all done on the typewriter back then, so there wouldn't have been like a form, but I'm thinking like insert field here. Okay, anyway. To select the LP presidential ticket, hammer out a new platform, and elect National Party officers. Several workshops were also held as the enthusiastic libertarians in attendance shared experiences, theories, and plans for the upcoming campaign. New York's Free Libertarian Party, remember they couldn't be called the LP back then, but it's kind of shades of New Hampshire, not New Hampshire, another New Mexico today, and it's the Free Libertarian Party of New Mexico. That's the name of our affiliate. Speaking of New Mexico, if you want to help our affiliate, just Google Free Libertarian Party of New Mexico. There is the old affiliate, which is still holding on to the name. That's a whole other issue. So it's not the Libertarian Party. It's the Free Libertarian Party of New Mexico. We would really appreciate it if you supported them or you gave to the National Ballot Access Fund, because we will be petitioning this year in New Mexico for their ballot access. At least I think that's the plan. I guess we have to wait to see if there's actually a ballot access encumbrance for it, but I think that's the plan. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. New York's Free Libertarian Party, which hosted the convention, received universal praise for the professionalism with which all events were conducted. The majority of convention discussion and debate centered around the new LP platform, on which McBride and Berglund will wage their 1976 campaign. As expected, debate on many planks was prolonged and heated. No, libertarians never get prolonged and heated. Hola, Nathan. The consensus was that the 1976 platform, which is considerably longer than the previous two platforms, was a successful effort at root and branch doctrinal purity. The vast majority of planks in the 1974 platform were amended and expanded. The foreign policy section of the platform was expanded to give more specific examples of how the LP's non-interventionist policy. I think this is the first time I've seen them consistently use the word non-interventionist. In the past, they did not shy away from the term isolationist. Applies to such areas as presidential war powers, nuclear disarmament, international money, the law of the sea, and the Middle East. The rights of children received more emphasis than in the past. The entire area of government spying, national secret police, and secrecy of government information was dealt with more explicitly in light of events that have occurred since the 1974 convention. Other changes included a more strongly worded plank favoring amnesty for those avoiding the military and a stronger plank on taxation. This time, including recognition of the right to challenge taxes on moral grounds. New planks were adopted, supporting freedom of religion and opposing the federal funding and regulation of political campaigns. Whew, that's a lot. The Distinguished Platform Committee, chaired for the second year in a row by Ed Clark of Los Angeles, worked virtually continuously. Now, they don't mean virtually the way we mean virtually. They mean literal, like almost entirely, continuously for 2 days, preparing their report to the convention. That's the way they used to do it. They didn't do these meetings beforehand. They met a couple days before the convention and did the whole enchilada. After lengthy, and as always respectful debate, most of the committee's recommendations were adopted by the convention delegates. Dr. Murray Rothbard and LP editor Bill Evers had prepared a draft of changes that provided the committee with the guidelines for much of its work. For more detailed discussion of the new platform, see page 8. We might get to that. McBride's nomination gained widespread news coverage. They already said this earlier. I think they forgot. Throughout the country, as UPI and AP articles were reprinted in virtually every major city, and they used virtually in the same paragraph twice. Yes, I am being a grammar Nazi. McBride's, oh no, we already did that. Our ideals are as old as America's first libertarian revolution in 1776, he was quoted as saying, and our ideas are as young as tomorrow. The favorable coverage was due in part at least to the attention McBride gave to the censorship of the media in his acceptance speech. He called for an end to all government involvement with printed and broadcast media and a strict enforcement of the First Amendment. Boy, what's old is new, right? I mean, it might be different technology, but it's the same old shit. And it stank just as bad. McBride spoke of the velvet vice. Oh, check this out. This is so timely, even though we're dealing with 48 years ago. Check this out. McBride spoke of the velvet vice of subtle intimidation by the FEC squeezing broadcasters in a way that effectively controls television program content. The same way there was a velvet vice on social media. Holy moly, how things do not change. A grammar commie, I'll socialize that bad grammar. It's not my bad grammar, it's our bad grammar. Okay, where were we at? Here's where we were at. The LP's affable. That's not a word that's used enough, affable. But you'll probably forget it in a case of lethologica. And articulate presidential candidate made several impressive speeches to the convention and to regional caucuses. He pledged a no-compromise, hard-hitting campaign that would place emphasis on the vital necessity of a non-interventionist foreign policy, particularly in the Middle East, and the dangers of the ever-increasing surveillance of American citizens by all levels of government. It is imperative, said McBride, that the citizens of this nation be made to realize that a real political alternative now exists. It is especially important, he said, that we make it clear that we are not an offshoot of the conservative movement, that we are as far from conservatives philosophically as we are from the liberals. I wish we would get that frickin' through our thick skulls today. Everyone seems to think you got to be more one than the other. When you're some days people think you're conservative and some days people think you're a leftist. You're on the right track, baby, because you were born this way. Lady Gaga reference. If you know, you know. This means that when we, let's go to page 5. I hate when they do this, but this is what you had to do in print media. Can you imagine doing that on a web page? So you're reading a blog and then it goes, page ahead, 5 pages. Oh my word. This is long. Holy crap. All right, well, buckle in, baby. We got a whole page. We're probably going to skip ahead through some because this is like quite long and detailed. Okay, let's skip ahead a bit. McBride was the pre-convention favorite to capture the nomination. Kay Haroff, the Ohio businessman who garnered 80,000 votes by the U.S. Senate last year, appeared to be gaining ground as the convention neared. She had obtained commitments from over 40 delegates. Wow, they used to gain commitments. Kind of like pledges. I mean, they're not binding, but that's interesting. The Haroff campaign strategy, however, appeared to be centered on picturing her as the most pure libertarian in the race. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so check and balance is the title of the next thing. At this point, a check and balance element built into the LP Constitution, we used to have a Constitution and bylaws back then, came into effect and created tension. Ooh, I love governing documents tension. What happened? The party constitution explicitly gives the presidential candidate veto power over who will be his running mate. We don't do that now. Let's see if we have a copy of that constitution. I'd like to read that language. I didn't know they used to do that. I know people have tried to put that back in, so I would be really interested. I think it was bylaws and constitution together. Let's look up national bylaws. And to answer the English Times, does libertarian individualism allow for individuals to band together to defend the ideals of libertarianism? Absolutely. If it's voluntary, you can do whatever you please. National bylaws. So, Constitution, bylaws, and convention rules adopted August 75 in New York. It says Hugh Lork there. I got to fix that. But that wouldn't have been the one controlling. It would have been the ones in 75 4. So let's look up vice president here. It's officers. Oh, they used to have automatic delegates back then. Let me pull this up on the screen. So check this out. And people have tried to put that into the bylaws. So we really need to start wondering why these things were taken out and not try to go back and redo things without knowing why they failed to begin with. So it says the following persons shall be automatically entitled to delegate status: national officers, executive committee members, and all former party nominees for the presidency and vice presidency. That's actually not a bad provision. I know some people disagree or think I'm being self-serving here, but I think having the LNC members have automatic delegate status makes sense, because what happens, like say in Colorado, where, you know, at one time we had 2 LNC members, it's kind of, the state feels somewhat obligated that if they have the honor of having LNC members as part of their state party, that it would kind of be snubbing them if they didn't make them delegates. But you're also different, but it's also difficult because if you have LNC members, and let's say you have a smaller state that only gets like 8 delegates and you've got 1 or 2 LNC members, those people are very busy running the convention and their attention is much more national than on your state issues, which the whole purpose of having a state delegation is to really advance the interests of your state in addition to the party. And you kind of have to blow a couple seats on, you know, not snubbing your LNC members. I think having the LNC members have automatic delegate status is actually a good idea, because they can't participate. A lot of times they're so busy with the convention, like particularly if you're the secretary. I would even be fine if that was just officers, because they can't meaningfully sit with their delegation. And all former party nominees. Well, okay, this was in the 70s, so you're only dealing with a couple people. But a lot of those people aren't party members anymore, or they're deceased. So I guess it's not like we're dealing with 100 people. That's not a bad idea, but I got distracted. Let's try to find out where they had the veto power. Yeah, right here, look, Article 9, Section 5, the party's nominee for vice president shall be chosen by the same procedure as for the presidential nominee. Notice that rules of order were in the Constitution and bylaws back then. That was a huge debate point at the last bylaws committee meeting. These all got moved to convention rules, where they should be. You could tell we weren't that sophisticated back then, except that the presidential nominee shall have the power to veto any candidate for vice president with whom he does not wish to run. Then what? Then what? Was that what the consternation was? Let's see. That's really interesting. Okay, let's read what happened. This provision was intended to ensure the compatibility of the national standard bearers and to facilitate their working together. Although, in line with this, some delegates held that the convention should offer its advice and consent on a vice presidential nominee compatible with and approved by the presidential nominee, others believe the VP nominee should be the choice of the convention alone. That's the way it is now, and that is the way I like it. These differing approaches combined with the delegates' direct preferences to affect the balloting. So, and then McBride spoke against the person who was ahead in the first round. And then there was a second round. Okay, and so that was a point of controversy. We know that now. And now check this out. Adopted changes. 2 changes that were adopted. Check this out, because we're thinking, speaking of redoing things that were old, I want to know why this failed, because we were thinking of this again. It's funny, and I'm as guilty as everybody else, But you get new people into the party and they're always like, well, this is what we need to change. And they don't go back and look, well, did we used to do it that way? Or are you just this genius that came into the party and saw something that the people whose shoulders we stand upon didn't see? You gotta be really careful. Whenever you think you're smarter than everyone who came before you, you're usually not. And I'm learning this right now, because here's something I advocated, not realizing we used to do it this way. I'd love to find out why we stopped. Now, because this was in the 70s, there's probably not a lot of records about why we stopped. Maybe we'll find out in a future issue of LP News, but check this out. 2 changes that were adopted included cumulative voting for the 7 at-large executive committee positions. We were talking about doing that again, which would allow each delegate to allocate all of his or her 7 votes to one candidate if desired, and a provision for none of the above in voting for the LP and vice presidential candidates. Check this out. Voting for the 7 at-large committee seats took up most of Sunday afternoon, as nominating and seconding speeches were heard for 16 candidates. Then it talks about the regional caucuses. Okay, here's the officers. And it said the hard work of the Free Libertarian Party assured there was always an extra, I can never pronounce this word, curricular, that's the way you spell it, right? Event to attend where there was a break in the convention. And it talks about the workshops. It says, but perhaps the most stirring moment in the convention came when life-sustaining member Marshall Bruce Evoy of Canada delivered Patrick Henry's famous Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death speech. Introduced as the delegate from Virginia, Patrick Henry, Evoy gave a dramatic presentation of the speech dressed in authentic American Revolutionary garb. Okay, and the rest just talks about, different speakers and the closing ceremony. So that was interesting. All right, I think that is all we're going to do for this evening. Because we're just coming up on about a half an hour. I like to keep these history shows at about that. Next show, we'll talk about, they moved the headquarters to D.C. This isn't the location we're at now, nor have we continuously been in D.C. since 75. So it went from Colorado to California. Now it's going to go to D.C. It's going to, I think, go to Texas after that, maybe back to California. And then we ended up back in D.C. I think that's the sequence of events. All right, everyone, leave it open for just a couple minutes to see if there's any questions, any last-minute super chats, whatever there may be. Have a sip of my wine, but then otherwise I'll be seeing you all later. All right, doesn't look like there is anything. So tomorrow, I have an LPCO board meeting, so there will be no show tomorrow, but there should be one on Tuesday. Wednesday, none, unless I live stream. Joshua Smith and Chase Oliver will be here in Denver at Liberty on the Rocks, and I will be going to that. Thursday, is there something Thursday? Something makes me think there was something Thursday. I know Friday is a policy manual committee meeting. But anyway, so probably shows like every other day, but maybe I'll live stream that Joshua Smith event with Chase Oliver if it's permitted. I'm not even sure where Liberty on the Rocks meets now. It's been a while. Like, there used to be a ton of people that went to that, and COVID like killed everything. Okay, I hope you all have an awesome night, and I'll talk to you soon. Mi guapas de libertad.
living, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want